So as the panelists come up, I'm going to introduce the moderator, Dave Roberson. Dave is a licensed real estate attorney. He's a licensed real estate broker and has been involved in real estate since he graduated from San Jose State, go Spartans, in 1986. He's personally been involved in really hundreds of real estate transactions. He's inspected 2,500 buildings himself. He was involved in the building inspection part of the business. Hey Dave, why don't you come up here and blocking the camera. He's guided to 2 books, How to Legally Rent Out Your House and Your Guide to Real Estate Investing. And those are available on Amazon, or I think if you'll email him, he might even provide you a copy with them. He's got a great blog. In fact, his blog inspired this panel because it was so timely. And so he made the perfect moderator. And knowing Dave now for a number of years, he was the guy who kept Moreland Little League going. And so without him, all of us wouldn't be here. So Dave, take it away. Thanks. Thanks, Dave.
First of all, welcome. Thanks to Ken and Kirk for inviting me. The years-long statewide housing crisis has caused disruptions in many circles: tenants, landlords, property owners, government departments, low-income housing advocates. Additionally, the most recent is the tax reform legislation that's making it harder for people to purchase homes in the state of California. The state of California has recognized this issue and changed a lot to facilitate and streamline the option for many homeowners to, 1, add value to their existing parcels without purchasing more land; 2, add an additional revenue stream to their incomes; 3, provide a valuable service to the community. Some would say it's a win-win situation. And there's benefits. The idea of rental property ownership is beyond the reach of many property owners due to the cost. There are significant benefits to owning rental properties, including 4 different ways to make money in rental properties: rent, debt destruction, equity value increase, and tax shelter benefits. There's also burdens with those benefits. If one is to build an ADU and rent it to third parties by placing it in the stream of commerce, there are concomitant burdens as well. 1, you have less space on your parcel. 2, you give up some privacy. 3, you must follow U.S. fair housing laws. Those are all issues that you have to grapple with. If you make that decision, if the benefits outweigh the burdens in your mind, this is an exciting time for you, as you now have an option that previously didn't exist. We have 3 panelists here tonight who can answer questions and broadly navigate the big ADU picture. First of all, we have Tony Chan from ADU Builder, and we have Eoin Matthews from Point to discuss financing. And we have Michael Brilliot from the City of San Jose. I'm going to moderate some questions, and the panelists are going to answer those. And then we're going to give the crowd an opportunity to answer questions as well. First of all, I'd like each one of them to make a presentation themselves. So Tony Chan of ADU Builders.
Hi everybody, my name is Tony Chan. I'm the founder and CEO of ADU Builder. We specialize in building ADUs. We help homeowners to build ADU, we help them to finance it, and then we do property management also.
I'm Michael Brilliot. I'm the head of the citywide planning of the City of San Jose, long-range planning. I also have the zoning code. And my team is the one that's basically modifying or making revisions to allow more flexibility for second units. And yeah, I have more to say on that, but maybe I'll wait. But I just want to say this one thing, is that the mayor, we have a housing crisis. And, my friends can't afford a place to live. I bought a house a while ago, I'm lucky. People are moving away. And we think second units are easy density. It's an easy way to get housing units in there to address the housing crisis. There's other strategies we have, higher density housing, which I think, as many of you can attest, can sometimes be a little more controversial, but we think ADUs are a much easier path to getting units in San Jose. The mayor has a plan that the council's approved to solve the housing crisis, building or permitting 25,000 units in the next 5 years. That's going to be very challenging for us to do, but we're hoping that a significant part of that can be ADUs. So I'll leave it at that.
I think I've known Mike. Oh, super. My name's Eoin Matthews. I'm Irish, so apologies for the accent if it's ineligible. And I'm one of the founders of a company called Point. We're based in Palo Alto, and we provide alternative finance solutions to homeowners, but we're deeply entrenched in home equity products, and ADUs have become very important in California, and so we've had the opportunity to work with Senator Wachowski, his team, and a bunch of homeowners across the state. So we sort of understand the lay of land as it comes to ordinances, and also all the different alternatives you have when it comes to construction, and how to actually make it work, because even though the legislation is great, it's a really bad time financially to try and get a contractor and get the materials to build something. So the balance between those two is actually quite tricky to manage, and we can talk about that later.
Awesome, thank you very much, guys. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then obviously we're going to give everybody a chance to ask questions afterwards as well. And you guys can take turns in answering these questions. I think some of them are going to be very specific towards each one of you, and then some will be general as well. So first and foremost, maybe this is for Michael. What kind of properties qualify for an ADU, for example, in the City of San Jose ordinance?
So the general answer.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hang on, got it.
Okay. Felt like Jimi Anderson. So currently, lots with a single-family zoning district, or a two-family, which is a duplex zoning district, apply. You can do it as a second unit, and then we do currently have regulations about the lot size, which I think in this area generally is not an issue, but in older parts of town we found is an issue. The minimum lot size is 5,445 square feet to build a second unit, which, while that may be not an issue in much of San Jose, because most of San Jose's homes are post-4-track homes that were on relatively large lots, in the downtown, pre-World War II part of the city, that can be a challenge for people. So we're looking at expanding that. But there are a lot of opportunities. San Jose is, so in land use parlance or whatever, yellow is a single family color. When you look at a map and you see yellow, that means the land use is single family. If you look at a map of the land uses in San Jose, pretty much all you're going to see is yellow. We're all single family. I can't remember the percentage, but the vast majority of land is single family. There are thousands of lots. I should know how many thousands there are. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But the point is there's a lot of opportunities to build secondary dwelling units, ADUs, in this city.
Great, thank you. This question's for Eoin. Eoin, if somebody is maxed out on credit and they're strapped with cash, are there alternatives for them to figure out a way to finance their ADU if they really want to move forward with this?
I didn't write that question, but it is a softball. So that's exactly what we do. I'll talk about it more broadly, though. So we're really close to the regulators. First of all, Fannie Mae is actively working on programs to help finance against future rental revenue. That's an implicit. But Fannie Mae will only do first lien products. That means refinancing your first. Coastal California, that probably means only going to a $630K balance. So if you're below $630K, you can probably get a Fannie Mae refinance and include the income. They started doing it for Airbnb income last week. So that's going to be one thing you can look at. It's radically changing, and the big government-sponsored enterprises, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, are actively trying to recognize that there's an emerging type of household or emerging type of income and make it more forgiving. That'll percolate out to the big lenders as well. So if Fannie Mae starts doing it, Wells Fargo will start doing it, and it'll change the landscape. What we do is we typically work with homeowners who don't qualify for HELOCs and home equity loans. That would be your second choice, HELOCs and home equity loans. HELOCs is probably going to run at about 5% right now, but it's variable interest rates, it's going to go up over time. So you might expect over the course of a 10-year HELOC in the current climate, it might go up to 8%. So it's going to be real money when you have to start paying off the principal in 10 years. You're going to be making interest payments on that. A home equity loan you can probably fix in at 5.5% to 6% right now. If you qualify, so that means 700 credit score and your debt to income below 43 and your combined loan to value with all this money probably needs to be below 75, maybe 80%. Point works at 80%, but we're much more flexible in the underwriting. Also, it's not a loan, so there's no monthly payment, but what we're doing is effectively investing in your property. We get to share the appreciation going forward. So more forgiving underwriting standards and a zero coupon product for you. As in other words, you get the money now to build your ADU, and you don't have to worry about monthly payments. You can pay it off at any point in 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eoin. Here's a question for Tony. Tony,
Dave, could you have the panelists stand when they talk?
Sure.
Just the people in the back. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Tony is the owner of an ADU builder, and can you take us through the building process from once they engage your company to finally turning over the keys and letting somebody move into the unit?
Sure. Yeah. So we help homeowners to go through the planning process. We have actually my coworker is here, Connie. Can I have a quick show of hand who is from the city of San Jose? Great. Connie, can you hand out the ADU worksheet for the city from the city of San Jose? I printed for those San Jose residents. You can have a copy. So basically, there's a worksheet you can go through. It asks about the lot size, what zone you are in, and how big of an ADU you can do. So step one, we will have an in-house architect to come over to go to your place and give you a free consultation. I think our architect partner may be here. Wenling, is Wenling here? Okay, maybe she's still busy.
She's right there.
Yeah. Okay, so Wenling is one of our architect vendor. She lives in Cupertino, and she is helping us to serve the Santa Clara County for the ADU. Can we bring up the PowerPoint?
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
It's pizza and cannoli energy. That's right. So I don't know how to put this in presentation mode. I've never done that, but I can walk you through. You tell me what you need to say.
Just go to the next page, I guess.
Next page.
Next page. Yeah. So step one is we need an architect to go to your site and do a drawing to get it approved. So our office is in Palo Alto. Palo Alto actually allow a 900 square feet ADU. So this is one of the optimal floor plan we do for homeowners for rental. We can actually do a kitchen, a living room, and 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and we can potentially get 4,000 to 500 rent from this. And we do this with fabric. Yeah, 900 square feet. Yeah, and for the city of San Jose, we got one approved. It's on 280 and St. Tomas, not too far from here. If we go down, I just want to share with you the plan. This is in Daly City. We just got this approved. So if we keep going down, this is one of the prefab home. Yeah, this is the one. The final inspection should be done soon. We're just trying to finish the exterior and get the kitchen all built out. This is the one in West San Jose. So basically, can we go to the next one? It's kind of hard to see. Basically, it's a corner lot house from our client. The main house is in front. This is the one. And then we got approved by a second unit in the back. It's a corner lot. If anybody want a tour, let me know. Let Connie know. We can sign up and we can do a tour for my client's house. Can we do that? So basically, we need a detailed plan like this. From my understanding, City of San Jose only allow one legal bedroom up to 600 square feet. So this is approved for 595 square feet. And you can see there's a kitchen in front, and then there's a bedroom and one bathroom. So step one is we have to do something like this and get this approved.
Thank you, Tony. That's a question for Michael. Michael, are you, the city of San Jose has a program for veterans with respect to ADUs, are you aware of that? Okay.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Are there any programs that the city of San Jose has in place that would help homeowners with ADUs that weren't previously discussed?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. What about parking requirements? How are parking requirements reduced in the state law with respect to the city of San Jose?
Right. So, so there's some big changes. It's not that you don't have to do any parking, but I'll explain that. So, I think San Jose is in a transition mode where the city was built around the automobile for the automobile. We're kind of transitioning in a place where, as our general plan will say, we're building a city for people and not cars. So what that means is that in general, ADU units do need to provide a parking space off-street. However, state law, there's a lot of exceptions for that. I won't go through them all, but if you're essentially within, I think, a half a mile of a good, decent bus line, you don't need to provide an off-street parking space. The other provision is that in San Jose in general is you need to have a 2-car covered garage for the reasons I described. Back in the old days, you'd buy a brand new 1960 Buick Electra and that was your prized possession and you kept it in the garage. Well, nowadays the garages are storing all of our stuff that we buy and you drive the car all the time, so just leaving the street because parking in the garage is inconvenient. So even though that law is still in the books, state law changed, etc. Now, if you can convert an accessory, even though you still technically have to have a 2-car garage for your house. If you're converting it to an accessory dwelling unit, you do not need to rebuild a new garage to provide the parking spaces for the house. So that's a big change. And the other thing we're looking at is allowing parking in the setbacks, so in the front setback, for example. So as long as you can have somewhere to put those cars in your driveway apron, even if they're in the front yard, but they're in the apron, that would be okay. I anticipate down the road we'll probably see even maybe no requirements for ADUs. We'll see where that goes. But in many places in San Jose, you would not need a parking space for an ADU.
Since you're standing up, let me ask another question about permitting. What do you anticipate, or what's the permitting timeline that we're seeing right now in the city of San Jose?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer how long a permit takes other than to say that it's a ministerial permit. It does not go through planning. You just go downstairs, there's a checklist, a planner looks at it, and then it goes, you get your building permits and go. So there's really no discretion. So it's relatively fast. I can't tell you exactly how long the permit processing takes myself. Actually, one of my 120 days. You could probably comment on that better than me.
San Jose, City of San Jose is very fast on approving permits. So you can do it yourself, or you can hire an architect that will save you time and more faster.
What was the term you used for the abridged permitting?
It's ministerial. I mean, there's no hearing, there's no planners involved other than just looking at your plans and checking the boxes and saying, yep, off you go to building. Yeah.
So this is probably a question for Tony. And stand up when you answer it. There you go. Traditionally, homes are built from the ground up. And there are many options available in the marketplace for kit homes or kit projects that are actually built somewhere else and delivered to the site. Are you seeing that type of product being delivered for example, in your practice?
Yeah, so we specialize in prefab home. We partner with a manufacturer in Sacramento. We realize that it's cheaper to build over there. Also, all the prefab home, they are HUD certified, so it saves a lot of time for the inspection. So usually when we do a outdoor traditional construction, it takes us 9 times to do the inspection. First, city need to come over to inspect the foundation, inspect the framing, inspect the insulation, electrical rough-in, plumbing, everything. So they have to do it 9 times, which takes a long time. So we have, if we can do a prefab, we can do it in-house in Sacramento, all over. We just need to do the foundation, put the house on top, assemble it. We can cut it down to 4 times. So it's faster and cheaper to do prefab. That's what we specialize in.
Stand up.
So I'm going to conflict with Tony a little bit on this. I don't think HUD housing qualifies for ADU treatment. We've seen some jurisdictions doing it. So HUD housing is when Department of Housing and Urban Development have a person who's at the site and it's pre-manufactured. Sacramento is about as far as you want a house to be transported on the road because they start to bow on the trucks. So they go on these extra wide trucks. There's highway patrol with them and they start to bow if they're going too far. And then they bring them on site and they force them together. Now HUD housing is the thing, it's manufactured housing. We've lots of manufactured housing around here. We've definitely seen areas, and I think the state legislation is pretty clear on this. ADU housing is Title 24 housing. So it's Title 24 building code, which is completely different. And and it means that it needs to meet Title 24 standards in California, which is really expensive. And the problem about it is Title 24 is, it's out there, it's very energy friendly, but once you actually build a smaller unit, it actually gets much more difficult to meet Title 24 standards. So I would just say, I don't think HUD housing is always treated as ADUs. It might vary by jurisdiction, might have opinions about this. But and actually maybe it's most relevant since everybody here is from San Jose, maybe you have clarification on whether HUD housing qualifies as ADU or whether it's separate. Usually it's separate. So just saying, I don't know, Tony, you've gone through ADU projects and they've been, so I would just caution about that and make sure the planner approves that it's going to be a HUD housing versus your standard Title 24 stick build. I'll add to that. I would say we look at this when we're talking to homeowners, and there's 3 different varieties. And the pricing in the Bay Area, you can sort of anchor around price per square foot. One is off-site HUD housing type stuff. That's typically coming in at anywhere from 150 to 300 per square foot. Is that probably ballpark, right? Tony, do you feel that's right?
More hours.
200 to 350?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds right.
So 250, we'll say 250 to 350. That's the same range as all types of modular homes. So anything that's going to be craned in or brought in on a truck, 250 to 350 per square foot. If you get a builder, now this is an extreme example. We talked to a guy in Oakland last week, and he's from the building trade. He had a 400 square foot custom build ADU, and he's quoted $400,000 for it. And that's not, and the crazy thing is, that's not crazy anymore. $1,000 per square foot, it seemingly is not crazy. He didn't pursue it. He ultimately went with another company up north in Marin called Valley Homes, who are in the 250 to 350 range. If you do stick build right now in the Bay Area, and you don't know the contractor, it's probably going to cost at least $400 per square foot. Like, it's very difficult to get the professionals out. They're really busy. So if you want it done this year, you're going to pay a premium dollar for it. A step down that we've seen a lot of homeowners go to, and we don't have any skin in this game, so we'll take it for what it is you can get pre-cut homes. There's a few different manufacturers. We found that somebody out of Colorado that we definitely really like that do a lot of backyard units. They help with the Title 24 compliance, which is a big deal. What they provide is 4 walls, roof, a floor, some interior lighting, and they generally will have a contractor who will do the installation. That ends up costing probably less than $100 per square foot. Then your contractor has to finish and do the interior walls, the bathroom and kitchen. So it's probably going to end up at $150 per square foot, but it's significantly cheaper. So you have these different options depending what you're aiming for. And maybe it's a good time to canvass the room. How many people are looking at adding an ADU for a family member? For a senior family member or for a younger family member? We'll say it's for a senior family member, because most of the hands stayed up. How many people are thinking about adding an ADU for rental purposes? That's a smaller group. What are the rest of you here for? College kids. Okay, cool. So it seems that the rental folks are generally going to be optimizing for unit economics, and so the pre-cut stuff generally makes the most sense. You're going to get a nice modern unit, it's sort of cool, it works. And then when it comes to family members, there's a guy, and if we can circulate email afterwards, there's a guy in San Diego who's done this really good ADA-friendly guide for backyard units for seniors. And he just tells you how to think about the design of it, because it's all the stuff like, my wife's a geriatric psychiatrist, it's stuff you don't think about until you're actually there. Like, they might think the receptacle for garbage is for peeing in. Later on, it happens very frequently. And so a really good design thinks about this. It doesn't get more expensive, it just means being thoughtful up front.
Great answer. Thank you very much. Buildings that need to be sprinklered. ADU requirements for buildings that need to be sprinklered. Can one of you guys answer that?
Yeah, so this is a big issue we understand, and this is not in my world, directly at least. But over 500 square feet right now, the fire department requires that the house this ADU be sprinklered. You have sprinklers. And I think that's really a significant cost add-on for building an ADU. So that's something that the city's going to work as much as you can, work with the fire marshal, but try to revisit that issue and see if there's any flexibility.
Thank you. By the way, show of hands of anybody that's outside of Santa Clara County here tonight. Anybody from San Mateo County? Anybody from Alameda County? San Benito County? Monterey County? Contra Costa County? Right. So my understanding is that jurisdictions are different with respect to sprinklers. So the city of San Jose might be a little bit different. Let's talk a little bit about seismic zone 4. So these buildings are going to have to be retrofitted to or built to seismic zone 4 standards. Is that correct?
I'm a planner, not a building guy, so I'm sorry I can't answer that question. I'm like the visionary guy. Kirk Tessa, maybe I should be more visionary, but yeah, that's sort of out of my realm.
Okay, so inspectors. Who are the inspectors that are going to come out and take a look at your building during construction and for final inspection?
What's the question?
So, inspections, where these things aren't going to get built without people looking at them. So, who are the inspectors that are going to come out and look at what kind of inspections are you going to have?
So it's going to be the building inspector, right, from the City of San Jose Building Department. So different people come over, then they inspect in different stages. And at the end, they need to sign off the final inspection and issue us a certificate of occupancy, right? Just like any new build house. Eoin gave a very good point. To build an ADU, there are many options, right? Number 1, traditional construction. Number 2, prefab houses. Number 3, pre-cut, right? So there are many options. Just to add something on my side, we do financing also in addition to construction. But different from Point, we give out construction loans. We basically want to partner with homeowners to share the rent. So for those who are thinking about renting out the ADU, talk to us. We basically provide construction loan, no cost to the homeowner. We charge about 2.5 to 3% construction loan. So we give out the loan, we fund the whole project, and then we rent out the ADU and we can share the rent generated from the ADU. That's our business model. The reason why I want to do this is I'm a real estate broker. Before I get a lot of listing from homeowners around here. And a lot of the elderly homeowners, they couldn't afford staying here and retire. They come to me and say, hey, Tony, I have to sell and I have to move somewhere outside of the Bay Area. I get a lot of, it's good business for me. I got a lot of listing like this. But after I help them sell the house, they move to Southern California, they move to Seattle, they move to Arizona. They call me back and they didn't like the place. I don't know why. For some people, maybe they call me back and they say, I don't know, the people are weird over there. They don't have good Chinese food, or whatever it is. It's just very heartbreaking for me to see a lot of the older homeowners need to leave the Bay Area. And once they left, they can never come back. It just sad for me. I was born in Hong Kong. I came here in 1987 as an immigrant. So now when an elderly homeowner call me and say, hey, I have to sell, I have to move out because I just couldn't afford retiring here. Now I have a solution and I can tell them, you don't have to. Just partner with us, give us a chance, let us turn your backyard into stable income. We don't need any cash from you. We have all the investors from China. We have all the investors, they're real estate developers in here and in China. They can fund our project. You don't have to come up with any cash. We can come up with all the cash to build whatever ADU you want. Then we rent it out. You don't have to do anything. You just get a portion of the rent every single month without doing anything. Just partner with us. So I feel much better as a person. I can give them more alternative when homeowner call me. That's the whole reason I'm doing this business. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Tony. So another question. Can a manufactured unit on wheels be wheeled onto the property, self-contained, and function and be permitted as an ADU? And that's a question for maybe Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak generally because I'm not a building guy, but yeah, I mean, the unit, they have to be on a foundation. So you can bring them on wheels, then you need to take them off the wheels and put them on a foundation and hook them up to sewer and electrical and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so I guess it's kind of like a mobile home, which aren't really mobile, right? They come in on wheels and then they put them on a foundation, and it's kind of similar to that.
The second part of that question was, can they be self-contained, where you don't actually have a connection to sewer?
I don't know. Probably not, but I actually don't know.
Have either one of you other guys seen one of those in place?
It's really difficult in the urban areas because you generally can't do septic. So that's a big problem. And you also have an obligation at certain addresses that you have to have connected to the water. So I think the SB 1069 made the utilities question pretty easy. It's trying to make it easier. Where it's tricky, just to highlight on the utilities, is for the renters. If you want to meter it, it can be expensive. If that single process of actually metering a unit off that same supply, it can end up costing up to like $10,000 or $12,000.
Great, thank you. I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm going to have one more comment I want to make about actual rental properties. There was a question about do rent control laws apply? And in the city of San Jose, rent control buildings are multifamily buildings. So as far as I know, the rent control laws will not apply, but fair housing laws do apply when you actually place your property in the stream of commerce, actually place an ad like on Craigslist or on Zillow, and you have to follow the fair housing laws. So I think it's very difficult for some people who are unsophisticated and don't understand those laws to make sure that you're following the laws with respect to that. The second thing is the tenant has the rights under the lease and under California law as any tenant with a lease. So you have to be careful with that as well. And those people that are thinking about building an ADU for their family member or for their college student, eventually the transition to a rental property is natural. So you're going to always be thinking that eventually it probably will be a rental property. Moreover, in the event that you actually sell that property, your single-family home with the ADU on the back end, it is probably going to be looked at as a rental property as well. So I'm going to open it to some questions. Kurt, you have a question back there?
Yeah, I'm there. Make sure this works.
Hello.
All right, so when you speak into this, speak directly into it. I'm going to do 2 questions in the back. I'm going to go to the front, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth just to even it up, okay? So I'm going to start here, and then we'll go up there. So please, if you could, short questions, and we're going to try and leave like 30 seconds to a minute response, and so we can get as much input as we can.
Okay, this question is for Michael. My name's Jennifer. We're in the midst of adding on an attached ADU to our unit and have found out that there's hidden costs that we didn't know about. Can you please explain the parkland fee? We paid $4,000 to the city to add our ADU. That's in addition to all the other fees we're paying to the city, and we didn't even know about it. I called numerous times to find out all the fees. That was never mentioned. And then also, Eoin had mentioned Airbnb being involved in financing, but according to the city, we are not allowed to use our ADU as a guest house. So can you, back to Michael, can you explain limitations of renting out an ADU, either part-time, full-time, etc.?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Is you can't Airbnb a second unit. I mean, you can rent it out to a longer-term tenant, but it's not intended to be for Airbnb. That's something that the council can change, but that's the way it is now. In terms of park fees, so yeah, it's very, very challenging because, as I think this neighborhood knows, it's park deficient. We have to provide 1,000. What is it now? I'm forgetting. 1,000. Oh God, I'm totally. 3 acres for every 1,000 people. Actually, our goal is 3.5 acres for every 1,000 people. And that's very challenging. And the way that the city generates money to build parks, and in many places the city don't have enough parks, is through impact fees of housing development. So ADUs do have to pay a parks fee. We've heard that before. It's too high. That's something that the council could decide to lower. We're not currently proposing that, partially because that's not in my realm of zoning code planning stuff, but it's something that we collectively will be thinking about with the other departments, parks in particular.
Talk a little bit to impact fees vary a lot city by city. So even though Senator Wachowski is the huge ADU champion, if you go to Fremont, you're probably going to pay $50,000 in impact fees. The impact fees in Fremont and a place like Pleasanton are often just as expensive as construction. That said, the most recent iteration of the bill that was tabled this year has not been enacted. restricts all impact fees. So that's up for legislation in California, in Sacramento this year, up for a vote. That would remove, in theory, Michael may, but would remove in theory the ability to assess local impact fees in these projects. When I spoke about Airbnb earlier, that's in any jurisdiction where they're allowed to do it. So now there are loans. Airbnb, this is apparently in the zeitgeist, is working on their own loan product. But what I was mentioning about Airbnb earlier was that Fannie Mae loans now will count Airbnb income, where they used to not do that. But that's only going to be in places where you can rent a unit. Most major urban markets are limiting ADUs to 30 days, longer term only rentals.
Okay, we got one more question back here.
This is to piggyback on the impact fees. This is a two-part question. One is, how much approximately does it cost to, in terms of the building permit fee or impact fee or what have you, whatever other fees that there are in San Jose, to build an approximately 600 square feet ADU? And secondly, is how about the utilities, the PG&E and the water, and the pros and cons of having separate utilities for the ADU? How does that impact the cost of construction?
Okay, so we actually, some homeowners who've come through in San Jose, we have a contractor, he's a civil engineer, work with them to do a feasibility study. And I wish I could remember, like I looked at one of these the other day, and these cost $400 or $500. We don't do them, the contractor does them independently. And all I remember for San Jose is the feeling it wasn't unreasonable. It's not the best way to put it. But if folks are interested in it, I'm happy to actually circulate that feasibility study for that property, because it's probably representative of what many of you will see. And it does, I think for that property we might have done two versions of pricing. One was a garage conversion and one was a detached. But it has, the contractor calls all of the different departments at the city and says, what fees are you going to assess? So it should be a fairly complete list. As for the utilities piece, listen, you're going to save money if you don't meter the second unit. Just you're going to save money, but then you're going to have to tell a tenant, if you're renting it out, hey, give me $50 a month, or it's free and already included in the rent. Like it's just a choice that you make.
For the PG&E, what my client did was instead of having separate meter, they add a sub-meter. So the homeowner actually go out and do the reading himself. We just install a sub-meter, so it will charge the water that way. So that's how she did it. Does it make sense? You can add your own sub-meter on your second unit, so you can save some money that way. We can talk more offline. Yeah.
So just from my own experience, most units that I have both in my portfolio and that I see in the marketplace are not separately metered, and the landlord or the property manager just actually includes that in the rent, or they make a deal with the tenant that, hey, this is what the utility cost is per month. I have another quick question for Michael. A single car garage is approximately 200 square feet. Does the city of San Jose have a minimum square footage for an ADU?
Is there? I'm not aware that we never hear about the minimum. We hear about what's the max. Yeah, there is, I'm sure. I don't know what it is.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, one of the things we're looking at is what's called junior ADUs, which is an attached. Basically, you convert a master bedroom into like an ADU light. You may not have a full kitchen. You may share a bathroom, but you have your own entryway into that room. That's another thing we're exploring as part of our code update to see if people would be interested in us in allowing for that as well.
Hey, so with respect to the junior ADU, if you look at the California ordinance on their website, a junior ADU would be a perfect way for somebody that's already renting out a room using Airbnb. Because everything is there already, maybe just a deadbolt is missing, so to speak. So that's something to consider. The California website on ADUs and accessory dwellings has some great information, a great resource for a lot of the things that we're actually talking about here tonight. We have some questions right there.
It's definitely a wonderful solution for seniors and family members. However, I'm really confused because the original legislation says this is supposed to be geared for low-income housing and affordable housing. And the way I read it was that you weren't supposed to charge fair market rent. And Tony, it sounds like you definitely are. And I'm confused that you can't do vacation rentals too, unless it's dramatically changed. That's the interpretation I got from reading it. It was supposed to be low-income housing, so you couldn't charge fair market rent. It had to be below that, and you couldn't vacation rental on it now. But it sounds like it's kind of evolved to something different now. Is that the case, or what? And also, a quick question about, I was interpretation that 800 square feet is a maximum for a 10,000 square foot lot or not. Is that true? And that's basically the question.
Yeah, so I mean, I think so ADUs are what you call naturally affordable. So there's market rate, which in this valley is you have to work at Google to afford now. And then there's affordable housing, which typically is deed restricted, meaning that there's restrictions on the property and the landlord. Usually it can be a for-profit, sometimes it's a non-profit developer, but they can't charge over a certain amount of rent. And there's all kinds of rules and laws about that, of what income category they're trying to hit and what the rents would be for that category. Then there's naturally affordable, which are affordable by design. They're affordable just because of, for example, ADUs. The idea there is an ADU is a lot more inexpensive to build. It's a smaller unit. Typically, naturally affordable tend to be smaller units. Sometimes they're called micro units. So this would, I think, fall in the category of affordable by design. But ADUs can serve many, many purposes. I mean, I think one of the reasons I'm guessing that we didn't make it up for Airbnb rentals is we're really intending it to be for people in San Jose that need a place to live. We don't allow people to turn their house into a hotel either, and I think that's because in part we have a housing crisis, and we should have places for people to live in their home, or at least be able to rent a home, as opposed to someone else making money as a hotel. So that's the philosophy behind it. I do understand that Airbnb type of operations can help keep somebody in their home and make it affordable. So there's that too. So that may change. Yeah, and in terms of 800 square feet, that 10,000 sounds right off the top of my head without trying to find the actual code here somewhere. Yeah, so 800 square feet. If you have a 10,000 foot lot or more, it's 800 square feet max. We're looking at actually taking it up to 900 square feet. That's why that's kind of proposed.
So just to add on one thing about when someone privately finances their own rental unit in the backyard, I guess their thinking would be that they're going to be able to use market rate to rent it. And by the way, when I was driving around this neighborhood about an hour before I got here today, I was doing a rental survey of the 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. So the 1 bedroom, the median price for 1 bedroom in this neighborhood is approximately $1,950 to $2,100, and the average 2 bedroom, median price of a 2 bedroom is approximately $2,500. So I think, like Michael's saying, that is a naturally affordable unit compared to if you were trying to rent a 2 bedroom in Palo Alto. I have some that rent for $6,000 a month. So that kind of gives you a compare and contrast that I think that these units, if they're renting at market rate, would certainly be affordable. And so next question we have.
Okay, so.
Okay, so far I'm hearing you talk about ADUs as an addition to an existing property. What if someone is building a new home or intends to build a new home and has the square footage on the lot to accommodate an ADU? Can it be built new?
Yes.
Can you have more than one?
No.
So the answer to that question is it depends on the jurisdiction. Actually, the state legislation allows you, in some cities, if they adopt that, you could put 2 ADUs on a parcel, but City San Jose is a little bit different. So question back there, and we'll get you.
So I had a question about the permitting process. You said it took about 120 days.
And just clarifying that's actually space regulations, that it cannot take more. The city can't take longer than 20 days. So often, San Jose is quicker. Like 4 to 8 weeks is not uncommon for an ADU review.
4 to 8 weeks. Can you start construction before it's permitted? Is that?
So to answer that question, what the process would be if you did that, you would be subject to possibly having to remove some of the building materials that you've actually installed, so the inspector could actually come in and inspect the rebar or the anchor bolts that you were supposed to show them in the first place. So it's probably not a good idea.
Okay, I have a question for tiny houses on wheels. So the answer was hard to pick. Is it allowed to have a tiny house in your front yard if you have the space for it?
Michael?
A tiny house in your front yard?
Yes. Because we would have to tear down part of our house to get a tiny house in the backyard.
Yeah, probably a crane. Yeah.
I'm talking on wheels, so I would like to.
Well, I think I would, if it's on wheels, to me it's like a Bambi, one of those Airstream trailers. I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about. So you could have an Airstream trailer in your driveway if it's set back a certain amount of distance. I mean, without getting all the specifics, my understanding is you probably couldn't do that. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about a real tiny house with a roof and everything, and it could be built like a stick shift also. There are several models out there. Also, if you get at beef factories and so, is that allowed in the front yard in San Jose? Because the beauty would be you could remove it easily, and let's say you have your peanut or your youngsters coming back from college and they want to have a start here in the Bay Area, you could provide housing for them and then they could move on.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be allowed, and that's not something we're contemplating. I think one of the things one of the approaches to ADUs, right or wrong, is that the philosophy behind this is trying to allow for more housing units in established single-family neighborhood, and doing it in a way that the character of the single-family neighborhood is maintained. So that's the general philosophy. So typically the units can be attached to the existing structure, not really in front, but more on the side or in the back, or they could be detached. Actually, most historic neighborhoods, when they have ADUs, they're actually a separate, almost little house. So that's kind of the thinking behind that. I just want to add one more thing about the mic work. You can convert your garage, though. So, again, I know not many people have 1960 Buick Electras in this audience. And I think cars now are treated more like refrigerators and microwave ovens. People don't work on their cars anymore like I do. So, you can convert your garage. That's another solution, is just make your garage an ADU, and garages often can be in front or on the side. That's a real option, is converting your garage to an ADU.
My question is, when do you have to pay more for sewer in the progression of ways to add on square footage? If you add on to your existing home, probably not. If you have a second unit, and when you meter it separately, you probably would have to pay for more sewer. But when would you also be required to separate?
So the sequencing of costs is the permit fees are going to be up front, and then impact fees come at the end. They're usually assessed at the end. But the utility sewer is usually not actually extra cost. So it's just an extension. As long as you have the capacity at your outlet, and this is then subjective, but it's nearly always considered that you have capacity at your current outlet. So it's just a matter of trenching from the existing line out to the detached unit or attached unit. Well, if you're separately metering, if you're able to sub-meter on water, on electricity, you can sub-meter. I don't know about sub-metering on water, but that's beyond. If you have to get in a new utility line, it's going to be like fresh construction. PG&E is going to just charge you, hey, this is a fresh connection from the street. This is new construction. So this is why, with the regulation, they try to make it specifically so that you extending it from your existing home to the ADU, you would not have extra capacity charges from the utilities.
I just want to add something. If people have concern about the fees, call your representative. Remember SB 831, we're trying to pass this. by the end of this year. That's the initiative that Eoin was talking about, SB 831.
What does it say?
Huh?
What is the purpose?
Basically, it put a restriction on this for the city for the some of the fee that audience mentioned, like the school impact fee, City of Palo Alto charges, traffic impact fee, school fees, park fees, the fees, a lot of fees. If people have concern about the fees, right, call it by reception, SBA 31.
So I have a 2-car garage, 600 square foot garage, and my husband will not let me convert it because he actually does put his cars in there. Can you build above, like a second story, if you make it look and feel like the ranch home that I have? Does that make sense?
By state regulation, yes. By Michael's word.
Yeah. So the city now is essentially a 1-story ADU, but where we're going is allowing 2 stories. And we heard a lot of this. This doesn't affect your neighborhood, but if you in a lot of the older parts of town, you have the Victorian, you have a carriage house in the back. The carriage went at the bottom, the hay went up top. People are like, well, why couldn't you put the ADU above that? Why couldn't I have a garage with an ADU up top? And then the other issue came up, well, I want to keep my garage. Why can't I just build a 2-story ADU? So those are the things that are on the table. 2-story ADUs. You could have a 2-story structure in the backyard, or you could have the grand unit above a garage. It wouldn't be above an existing garage because the existing garage couldn't support the weight of an ADU. You'd have to build a new garage and an ADU. So that's on the table. That's where we're going. Yeah.
You mentioned that San Jose allows 600 square feet. Do any of you know what it is for Santa Clara?
I don't, but I print out this handout for the city of San Jose. Somebody got it? So according to this, I just want to add something for San Jose. It says 1 story only 18 feet minimum, 14 feet average. 14 feet average, so it's all set here. My wife and I live in Emerald Hills, near Rebel City, so we are part of the county of San Mateo, so the 2-story is allowed for the county of San Mateo, but San Jose is here. People should look up this handout for the city of San Jose.
Yeah, I mean,
County of Santa Clara, the max is 800. County of Santa Clara, max is 800.
Not county, I'm talking about city.
If anybody wants to look up these details, just go to our company website, adu-builder.com, click on homeowner. It has a list of all the city in the Bay Area that we specialize in. You can click on it and find out all a worksheet like this for different city, for different requirements. Yeah, just go to our website.
And I just want to do a quick process check. We've got about a half hour left. We're going to continue with questions, so just when I look around, I'm going to kind of go circular or counterclockwise. Just bear with me, and if I catch your eye, that means I'll come up to you as soon as I can.
One other thing, I want to add something real quick. So for those of you that are not current rental property owners, but you're going to have an ADU and you are going to be renting it out, something to consider that a lot of people don't, and that if you are going to rent it out, it's now a business. So everything that you spend towards the construction, towards the implementation, and renting that out is an expense towards your business, including the fact that you can actually shelter some of your income by depreciating the cost of the structure over 27 and a half years. You can even apportion a part of your property and your property tax as an expense. You can even, if you have a property manager, they can expense those fees. So think of it as a business. Think of it as something that it's going to be, generating income for you going forward. It also improve the value of your land. Those are all benefits that you will gain by doing that.
So yeah, you gave a great segue with the appreciation of the value of the land. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Actually, not land. You can't depreciate land. You only depreciate the value of the structure.
Not depreciation, appreciation.
Appreciation.
So I've heard that I should expect to recover basically what I put into building the ADU as far as the value of the house.
So a couple things you should think about. One is that if you have a renter in your property, they're going to be paying off your debt. So that in and of itself, that debt destruction is a benefit for you. You're going to be gaining rental income, and presumably over time with inflation, that rental income is going to go up. So you have that benefit. Additionally, if you end up selling your property down the road, an investor that's buying your property is going to look at that property as an income-producing asset, and they're going to look at that second unit as an additional source of income, so that property is going to be much, much more valuable than just a typical single-family resident for an investor. I don't know if that answers your question, but you've got to look at it kind of like, this is something I'm looking for a return on my investment. I'm looking for how can I maximize my piece of property, and the state of California has actually given you this option to consider, put it down on paper, look at that asset, look at the way that return is going to work for you over the next 15, 20, 30 years. I think once you do that, you're going to realize that it's actually a really good deal and a really good opportunity for you to really, really kind of think about. Does that answer your question?
I'm trying to get to understand how much, if I do sell and move in 3 years, am I out $100,000 or am I going to?
So that's a question that you can take offline with, certainly send me an email. We can talk about how you kind of calculate return on investment based on your investment, based on the potential return on rental income. Really simple way to look at it, okay?
There's some research on this around the bump from ADUs, and it's actually pretty mixed. So realtors are currently trying it, because realtors want people to sell, pretty much. So they're actually telling most people, you know what, you're going to do this big project, it's not going to add a lot of value, don't do it. And one piece of research that was done was Portland and Vancouver have much more mature ADU markets, and having an ADU is essentially adding 10 to 15% on top of the cost to the value, just sort of the ballpark. So in other words, if you spend $200,000 on it, it's probably going to be then another $30,000 on top of it in terms of a premium. But right now in the Bay Area, any properties, and we sort of do a lot of data analysis, any properties that are likely to be eligible for ADUs are definitely already seeing a premium. So if it's big enough a lot, there are smart buyers who are paying a premium just to have the ability to do an ADU on it. And definitely in instances where there is a backyard unit, and it's not just for rental purposes, there's a ton of people who want it for family members. So people are paying a big premium for the backyard unit. The unit's probably going to cost might cost $200,000 to put in place, but you're probably going to get a $300,000 bump right now in the barrier for that. And some of that is finger in the air a little bit, but there's significant extra demand for those units.
One other thing to consider too, the tax assessor Larry Stone just published his end of year report, and he indicated that the year-over-year gains in Santa Clara County for properties for 2016 was 6%, and for 2017 was 9%. So the year-over-year gains for the last 2 years is a combined 15%. If your property got that bump, like Owen was saying, you're just going to be getting it a little bit higher based on that improved value. You are going to be paying more in property taxes, but you are going to get that bump in improved property value as well. So there's a number of different ways to look at it, and we can certainly take that offline if you want to send me an email. Okay?
I want to touch just on the point that you raised there, property taxes. So the HCD in Sacramento, this is one where you as homeowners want to be advocating for something. HCD is Housing and Community Development Sacramento. There's a couple of guys there, Greg Nichols and Paul McDougall. You can find their names online, and the reason I raise them is they are the ones who are out telling local county assessors not to make sure that an ADU is not triggering Prop 13.
Yes.
So it's really important, and there's some jurisdictions, if the ADU is 600 square feet and your existing primary property is 1,000 square feet, the assessor might just go, hey, that's more than 50% of the square footage. Prop 13's out the window, I'm going to reassess based on the value of the unit. HCD is trying to give direction to local county assessors that this should not trigger Prop 13, but your ADU part of it, that's going to be just straight up property tax on that part of the development. So if you spend $200,000, you're going to be paying property taxes under $200,000, but hopefully not on a new reassessed value for the primary.
Thank you. We're going to continue with questions. I just want to put in a shameless self-promotion here. Ken mentioned I had written a couple of books. One is how to legally rent out your house. I'll give this to anybody that emails me. I send it in ebook format. I'll also mail it to them. And also your guide to real estate investing as well. And these are just marketing pieces that I use for my company. And you're more than welcome to them. They're free copies. And actually, there's a lot. There's a lot of the information that I'm talking about is actually use that. So go to question back there.
Hi, I live in unincorporated San Jose, so a lot of what I've read about in our codes deviates substantially from what I've heard tonight in terms of some of the restrictions involved. So my question is, and this is a little bit unfair because there's no county office representation here tonight, but are any of the panel aware of moves to support these kinds of changes for unincorporated county residents, similar to how San Jose residents are?
Actually, there is a county. Dave Cortez's office is here. She might be able to help us.
What I can do is take the question back, and I don't know the answer right away, but I'll give you my card or get your information and have a planner call you or figure it out.
And there was actually somebody that asked, who just had to leave. She asked if you were to build like a 3-car garage, can one of those units of the garage be considered an ADU or something along those lines, kind of divided up so it's kind of like a garage / living container thing?
So I guess you're kind of thinking the car collection, you decide to convert one of the spaces to an ADU. Yeah, I mean, we allow garage conversions to an ADU. Yeah. I do understand, I mean, I'm not trying to toot San Jose's horn because, there's a lot of things that people still want San Jose to do to make it easier. But from what I understand from other people, is San Jose is one of the more liberal cities in terms of what we allow, how we allow it. Compared to other cities, which I don't know if that's going to happen. Well, sorry, but yeah, so I've heard that. And I just want to put a plug is actually, we are actually loosening up the rules even more. I think you heard me talk about two-story units, reducing the lot size, getting down to, at least not from a planning point of view, potentially a 0 setback. Which means you'd still likely have to do something related to fire codes and building, but planning wouldn't have a required side setback. And allowing the parking spaces to be in the front setback, the driveway apron. We're looking at a bunch of things, allowing larger units up to 900 square feet. There's a bunch of stuff under consideration right now. We've already had one community meeting. We're having 3 more. I won't tell you all the details of that. What I'll do is I'll just send it out to Kurt and Ken, and they'll forward that announcement on the upcoming workshops in March, and you can go to one of them and learn about what we're proposing and throw in your 2 cents about what else should be considered, or even if you're concerned about some of the things that are on the table, you can express that too.
Yes, so this is sort of a permitting zoning question that I feel like you were talking about. I live in El Viso. I am in an older 1-story building, a house, and I have a large yard. If I wanted to build a modest ADU 1-story, could I do that?
Most likely, yes. I'm assuming you're zoning if it's a single-family zoning district or a duplex zoning district or a planned development zoning district with single-family standards. You could.
But the reason I'm asking that is my understanding is if you build a new house there, it has to be 2-story with a garage underneath.
Well, that's correct. There's flooding. It's sort of our version of New Orleans up there. So, yeah, living space has to be, I think it's 8 feet or more above grade. So yeah, you couldn't build it at grade, it would need to be up. So that would be the case where you could do, when we allow a 2-story unit, you could have the garage below and the ADU on top of the garage.
So the short answer at this point, no.
Correct. And so yeah, given that there's a flooding thing, I think in that case, there may be a way to get around that, but we're planning, hopefully, if the council goes with it, is to change the code so you could do 2 stories. Yeah. Actually, in that case, there may be, you might still be able to do it. I'm not sure the particulars, but it might still be possible. So a variance or something like that.
I want to ask a question again about the permitting fees, and this is because in the process of thinking about building ADU, affordability is a big issue for us. And I heard that the range of permitting and impact fees could range from 5,000 to 10,000, so that would really make a difference for us in thinking about construction, etc. We went down to the city to ask some questions and really had a difficult time. We're kind of told it's really meant for architects and contractors, so we couldn't get a really good sense of what those fees and permits would look like. And there's a really nice document online, it's about 20 pages long, that outlines all the permitting for various different types of plans. But I wasn't sure if those actually apply to ADUs, or if those are for other forms of construction. So I guess that's my first question.
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to, so I can't comment on that question. And yeah, I mean, one of the things, so the city, unfortunately, is I don't know if you guys all know this, but the city's broke. Go figure. We're in the hottest economy on the planet, and we're going to have cutbacks this coming year. So. One of the things we aspire to do is more proactively get out there and promote ADUs and provide fact sheets that explain that permitting fees are typically in this range, here's the process, here's some examples, blah, blah, blah. That's what we aspire to do, and we'll hopefully be able to get there with a lot of our nonprofit and maybe some of our for-profit partners. But in terms of fees, yeah, they're very, very complicated. I've heard $10,000 of various fees related to an ADU, and I can't say that's actually completely accurate. That's what I've heard. Some other colleagues might be able to comment on that. But yeah, I think that there is a need to make it more, because the people who are doing ADUs are oftentimes not the professionals that come in. They're homeowners that are interested, and they're just trying to find out some basic information to decide whether they should hire a professional to help them out. So we understand that.
Just to add on to that, just remember too, if it is going to be a rental property, I know you don't want to hear this, but it is expensive. So most of my clients are in a 50% tax bracket, so it's actually half of the cost of what you actually outlay, if that makes any sense.
Hi, I'm actually from the city of Campbell, and not sure if anybody knows about the city of Campbell. Restrictions on ADUs, but they haven't actually revised it in the past several years, except for what is minimum for the state. So I wanted to just get the panel's input on how could I potentially influence the city to potentially reduce the requirements for ADUs.
Sure. I mean, I think it's just a matter of you can contact your electeds as individuals. I think more effectively if there's a group like this, or maybe even this group would be interested, but other community groups, there's housing advocate groups out there, there's Silicon Valley at Home, and partnering with them, your neighbor associations, to sort of go to the council and say, hey, this is something that we really, really want to do. One idea, I'm not trying to put Kirk and Ken and make them do a roadshow here, but maybe there's an opportunity to do this more Campbell focused, or maybe there's people from Campbell, but maybe there's a group down there, a neighborhood group that would invite electeds or get elected to host a conversation like this. It may just be not being aware that people are really interested in this, and if they found out that people were, they'd say, well, let's go for it. Let's loosen this up. Let's make this happen. I can't say for sure in Campbell, but it may not be, complete opposition. It may just be that they haven't heard from the constituents and the residents.
And I want to add one thing before we're done. There was a comment about being done about 10 minutes early so we can get everybody's name on the list. This is a cautionary note, and that is anybody that's hiring professionals to perform construction or perform professional services on their property, make sure you do your due diligence, okay? Make sure that the contractor that you're going to hire or the lender that you're going to use or the architect that you're going to use is licensed. Make sure they have insurance. Make sure that all the things, all the bells and whistles that they claim they have are actually exist. And make sure that you actually interview 3 or 4 people in each category, just so that you're not sorry that the person that you hired wasn't exactly what you thought they were when you first hired them. And that's because if you do go down this road and you do venture to put one of these units in your backyard, you're spending $100,000, $200,000, $250,000. It's a substantial investment, and it's a great investment, but you want to make sure that you're using somebody, and you want to be really careful. So with that, that's an abundance of caution comment. So we have one.
So I have one over here. I'm going to say two to 3 more questions. Okay, so just bear with me if you need to get your question answered. You can reach out to Ken and myself, and we will get them to the experts over here to get answers back.
Yeah, I just want to add something quick for the Campbell. If you go to our company website, click on homeowner. I just did that. For City of Campbell, look under Code of Ordinance. It's Ordinance number 2216. That is the Campbell Accessory Dwelling Unit local ordinance code, chapter 21.23. Everything is online. Just go to our company website. You can find it.
Okay, sorry. I just want to lay it on employment perks. I don't know if this is actually already covered, but I was trying to get a better understanding of how this loan feature works. It was on your website about how you could do the ADU without any upfront cost, that you guys would cover that. But I was just wondering, like, is that like some typical 10-year thing, 20-year, and then you're talking about how you take part of the rent commission? And what if you don't have tenants for several months? I mean, what is the obligation of the homeowner in that situation?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. So basically, it depends on the homeowner. Some homeowner, they don't want to come up with any cash to invest into the project. They just need to sign a contract and partner with us. They get 30% of the rent. So after we will build it, we'll fund the whole ADU project. We rent it out. If the ADU doesn't rent out, the homeowner has no obligation, except they need to pay, I think we charge 1 year LIBOR, which is about 2.5% every month. That's the construction loan. Once the house is rented out, we share the rent. And some homeowner, they don't want to put down any down payment, they get 30% of the rent. Some homeowner, they say, hey, I want to contribute some money into the project, they put 50,000 or 80,000, they get 50% of the rent. That's generated from the ADU. Some homeowner, they come to us, they say, hey, look, we have all the money. That's most of the homeowner. They pay us like 200, 300,000. We build the ADU. We can help them manage. They get 100% of the rent. So it depends on the homeowner. It's a scale.
So if you want to do like 0 down, I mean, what do you find in that the duration of that commitment would be?
It's a long-term construction loan. So basically, we call a lien on the property, just like any home equity line of credit. We put a second lien on the property, different from a equity financing. At that point, we give out the construction loan. We record a lien on the property, and there's no prepayment penalty. You can refinance or cancel or pay us back the principal when you sell the house. Yeah, does it make sense? Yeah. You can do it before you sell the house also. Yeah, there's no prepayment penalty. You can cancel the contract anytime. Just like any loans you do, right? Any mortgage, no prepayment, you can cancel and refinance at the time.
All right, we're going to keep these questions going, just a couple more.
How many people can live in an ADU?
So that's a great question. Actually, if you're talking about your own family members, you can put as many as you want in there. If you're talking about as a rental property, it's actually limited by each jurisdiction that adopts the housing code in the state of California. And it's by number of adults and the number of rooms that are actually in the property. So for example, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that has a dining room, a kitchen, and maybe a family room actually has like 9 rooms. So it's like 2 adults per room, so you can actually technically have a lot of people living in that house.
So I was talking about an ADU.
Correct. So I was trying to illustrate the way that you calculate it. So it's a lot more than you think. Okay? And so once you subject yourself to the U.S. Fair Housing laws, you comfortably could probably put 2 adults per room. So if the ADU has 1 bedroom, 1 main room, 1 bathroom, there you go, 6 people. My hunch is that you're not going to get that kind of person.
And each person would have a car. Okay. So I got one other question for the man from the city. Did you say that the city is thinking of allowing parking on the front lawn of homes?
No, not on the front lawn. It's just that no. We actually have an ordinance that prohibits that you pay more than 50% of your front lawn area or front setback, technically. Sit down.
You're done talking on that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in the opposite position of most people here. I'm a renter looking at alternatives to multi-family housing. After listening to you guys, I realized that a lot of the cottages that I've been looking at are obviously unpermitted, or something like a tiny house. What's the repercussion for both the tenant and the homeowner for an unpermitted ADU?
So it's actually a really easy question. The state of California requires a landlord to provide a habitable rental unit. Habitability is defined by California Civil Code Section 1941. The roof's got to be free of leaks. The plumbing system has to work properly. The heating system has to work properly. The windows have to operate. There's got to be a deadbolt on the door. There's got to be a 10-year smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector, and the appliances have to function. That is their obligation. If it's unpermitted and they're violating the habitability standards, you can certainly call the City of San Jose code enforcement officer. He'll come out there, he'll write up that landlord. That landlord can actually get fined both by the City of San Jose and through civil action. You can sue them, okay? So it's basically the state of California habitability standards. You have tenants' rights in that building, notwithstanding the fact that it's unpermitted. Does that answer that question? Okay.
All right.
In the beginning, you were talking really fast, and you mentioned something about Airbnb, whether it is or isn't allowed. And the reason I'm asking is the reason I'm looking at an ADU is that we have in-laws that visit us for 5 or 6 months out of the year, and the other 5 and 6 months I'd like to Airbnb it and see if that's a possibility. Because obviously you can't rent it for 6 months.
Yeah, they're not. No, not now. Airbnb is not.
I mean, you can Airbnb a bedroom in your house, but you can't Airbnb an ADU.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Let me just confirm that. I'll send an email. But yeah, I mean that's my understanding at this point. Your ADUs are not intended to be for Airbnb.
You know, most jurisdictions have a minimum 30-day when there's an Airbnb restriction. So technically, you could rent it out for a weekend, but then you couldn't rent it out for the remaining 28 days of that month. Does that make sense? So some jurisdictions have that restriction where, although they'll say Airbnbs are not allowed, it's a 30-day minimum rental. So if you rented it for 2 days, then you couldn't rent it for the remaining 28 days to meet that 30-day restriction.
You can rent it for 2 weeks and not for the other 2 weeks?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, so right now in San Jose, ADUs kind of treated the same way in that you can't Airbnb your house. If you live there, you can do it, but if you can't turn your house into a full-time Airbnb, and I know people that do this illegally, they just turn their house into a hotel because they figure out they can make more money Airbnb their house than renting it out. So it just kind of blanketly applies to ADUs. And it's possible that would change, but that's the way it is now.
So a quick solution to that would be just go to the junior ADU requirements. If you're already renting out a room via Airbnb, make it a junior ADU, as long as the City of San Jose adopts that part of the ordinance.
Yeah, 2 comments real quick. Great, San Jose is more liberal technically from the state perspective. You can actually have an indoor one, an attached and a detached. But the key thing, I think there's a lot of empty nesters here. So one of the things to consider is you move in to the ADU unit now that you don't have the 3 to 5 kids and you have no restrictions as far as rent because UC Berkeley stated that there are 500,000 housing units short in the Bay Area. So let's also think about families. Do you want to downsize and live in an ADU and open it up to a new family that has their 2.2 kids and 2 dogs and whatever else?
And you get real quick. Okay, and you get a lot more rent that way too. So we did a remodel. We kept it to less than 500 square feet, and there were a lot of advantages to that because you didn't have to pay park fees and that sort of thing. So would that also apply to ADUs if your ADU is less than 500 square feet in the city of San Jose?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. No, I'm pretty sure. No, not particularly. The question is, I think my understanding is we do charge reduced park fees. That's my.
There were none, right? Yeah, it was over the counter permit. It was easy.
Yeah. But there's no 500 foot. The 500 foot threshold is for sprinklers from the fire marshal.
I have something that might be helpful. I actually live in an ADU on the other side of Stevens Creek, so I'm technically in Santa Clara, so I don't know if it would be that helpful to most of the people in San Jose. I have about 700 to 750 square feet and an adorable ADU behind another house. And it's all new construction. It's been redone. It's attached to the existing old garage building, which I think might have been required in the city of Santa Clara, because just in my little neighborhood, when I walk my dog, there's about 4 or 5 other little obvious ADUs that all have driveways with parking separate from the house. Looks like they all have a yard. I have a yard, I have a great yard, I have a storage shed, I have a separate art studio. It's adorable. And I came from luxury, dense housing, these big 4-story apartment places that are going up. The rent would go up every year, 2 to 5-6%, and it's starting to get really frustrating. I'm a middle-aged single woman, and there's a huge demographic of people like me looking to feel stable and find a stable place to live. That's not in a luxury, dense housing complex. That starts to get old after 4 or 5 years. So, and it's not low rent. I'm paying just about the same rent I paid in luxury housing. It's a little bit less, but I'm gaining private outdoor space. I looked at 2 other studios before I found this one. They were both around $2,000. They were both under 400 square feet, and one of them didn't even have a closet. You had to walk out of the front door, down the path, into the garage, and the clothing hung on racks in the old garage, single-car garage building for $2,000. So I have to tell you, I know a lot of single people that have downsized, that have sold houses, that have moved on, divorced, empty nesters. I say build your ADUs, because there's professional, responsible people that want a nice, quiet, private place to live with their pet. And they'll stay. So that's what I have to say.
I'd like to, I think we're going to close that if we didn't get your question answered, I'm sorry about that. But you can reach this panel. It's great. Could we just please give our panel a hand? These guys are not getting paid for this. It's volunteer, just like all of us are. So we really appreciate you taking the time out.
Let me add something. So the city of Palo Alto is doing a Chinese New Year fair this Sunday 2 to.
Don't leave yet. Hey, stop that. Stop that.
The city of Palo Alto invited us to participate in the upcoming Sunday 2 to 5 p.m. Chinese New Year fair. We will have a booth there. If you guys have any questions, come by. I'll be there to answer questions. If you guys can make it to Palo Alto. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do some closing comments. The Winchester NAC, WinchesterNAC.com. Winchester, like the word Winchester, NAC for Neighborhood Action Coalition.com. WinchesterNAC.com is our website. This has been live streamed. If you want to go back and review stuff that you didn't quite catch, you can catch it online from our website. It'll have a link to a Facebook page, which was all Facebook streamed. I'm going to do a shameless plug for 2 things. First, the pizza place, A Slice of New York, is the first working cooperative in the South Bay. So as you buy from that organization, you are helping the employees directly. So please support that organization, which I'm a part of. And second, I'm also a member and co-founder of a group called Catalyze SV. We're looking at how to create a better community engagement process in the development process and advocate for good projects. If you're interested in that, I have some cards out front, and catalyzesv.org is the organization. Was this helpful for you guys? Was it? Yeah? So I would encourage you to please give feedback. Send us an email.